Welcome back to Wealth Runs Deep. I am your host,
Ashley Fox. She's CEO of Empify.
Ashley M. Fox is the CEO of fintech company Empify. She's a former Wall Street analyst and now works to make finance more digestible for the masses.
And today we're stepping into a chapter of my journey that wasn't glamorous, wasn't easy, and definitely was not Instagram ready. When I say Wealth Runs Deep, it is deep. I remember driving, teaching literally 4 different schools in one day, driving all around the city of Philadelphia. I remember I met with a politician in Philadelphia. I don't remember the conversation, but I remember this one line. The world is not going to want what you provide. They only want Ashley Fox. Therefore, you're not going to be able to do this. Whatever it did to me, I remember sitting in my car. I was on 40th Street in Philadelphia. Cried my eyes out. I leaned my seat all the way back, and I was crying because when you're doubting yourself in your dreams already, and then you have someone on the outside who doesn't even know you, or even people who do know you, amplify what you're already feeling. You mix your doubt with somebody else's demons. Oh, I broke down. If you're listening right now and you're in your almost moment where the dream is alive but the bank account says otherwise, where you're building in silence with no applause, then this episode is for you. Welcome back to Wealth Runs Deep. I am your host, Ashley M. Fox, and today we're stepping into a chapter of my journey that wasn't glamorous, wasn't easy, and definitely was not Instagram ready. This is the season where Empify went from a vision in my head to a real business in the world, but it did not feel like success. It felt like survival. Between 2017 and 2021, I was hustling to make ends meet, chasing opportunities and questioning everything. I was leaving behind discomfort, I was stepping into independence, and I was ultimately moving across the world to Paris. Not because I had it all figured out, but because I was desperate to hear myself again. If you're listening right now and you're in your almost moment where the dream is alive but the bank account says otherwise, where you're building in silence with no applause, then this episode is for you. Because sometimes the breakthrough doesn't always feel like a win. It feels like you're barely holding on. So let's talk about the moment it became real. So let's get into Empify going from just an idea to the Inc. 5000 list. Now, it was an idea for a very long time as a financial advisor. Even right after I left Wall Street, I created this word, empower and modify, merge together. But it wasn't that simple. I want to talk about that in-between phase where you feel like you have an idea, you have a desire, but you're still in survival mode. You're still in idea mode. You're still in, I don't know if this is going to work mode. So when I was a financial advisor and I decided to leave, I followed my heart. And I'm making 6 figures in this business, but I wasn't happy. And I'm really big on alignment. I'm really big on not just starting a business because I want to make money or I don't want a boss. That was never my decision. It was essentially to change the world, and I would figure out how to get it done. No business plan, nothing. So when I left being a financial advisor, my revenue dropped by 50%. So at this point, I'm on my own and I have bills. I'm not living in my parents' house, but I had to teach kids. And that was when I realized what Empify was, that we were going to revolutionize how adults and children learn how to build wealth. So when I first started, I started to teach in school systems for free. So I was teaching in 4 schools. And I was teaching 4 different groups of students in 2 different schools, financial education. And when you're bringing something into the school system, essentially all they care about are test scores. I cared about financial education. But remember, the world doesn't know they want financial education. They just see a problem, but nobody wants to be the solution. That's what Ashley was going to be. That's what Empify was going to be. And so I'm teaching kids for free. I don't have any kids. I didn't know what I was doing. And it was hard. And it really would bother me because I wanted these kids to learn the basics to financial education and not make the same mistakes that we make as adults. But I'm trying to figure out how I can get paid. I'm living off of barely nothing. I'm not working with clients, and I'm trying to figure it out. So that lasted a year of discomfort, a year of being late on my rent payments, all the way to 2017. And that was the first year Empify made any money. The idea of the business came about in 2014. It took me 3 years to take what was in my heart and to have it manifest into my actual bank account. And even when we got our first check, I remember we partnered with the school district. We were in 26 different schools. So at this point, Everybody wants Empify, especially in Philly. We want financial education for our high school students, our middle school students. We want it in colleges. So I'm teaching at UPenn. I'm talking to all these different students all over. Organizations from all over the world started to reach out, yet the money wasn't there. And when you work in B2B, the checks don't come when the program starts. Usually it's net 90. So I'm literally living in arrears, trying to figure it out, trying to figure out how to grow this business, yet the world wants it. But now I'm in the business of hiring and firing people. And I knew that what we were trying to create needed to be scalable, and I needed technology, but I came from finance. I don't know how to build an app. I don't know anything. So I'm stuck confused as to why people want this product, yet I'm the only one teaching it. And I'm all over the place. I remember teaching literally 4 different schools in one day, driving all around the city of Philadelphia for literally, compared to what I charge for an hour today is what I got teaching 26 schools in the city of Philadelphia. So one thing I want you to know, even when you start your business, you're not going to charge the price that you will eventually become. You're going to charge for what your identity aligns with. So I was charging probably a couple $1,000s when in reality, this program was worth tens of thousands of dollars, but I didn't know my worth. At that point in time, I think one of the biggest checks I got was $12,000. I had never seen $12,000 before, so much that when I deposited the $12,000 check, the bank held it for 2 weeks because the bank wasn't used to seeing $12,000 in my bank account. So I'm creating this idea. I'm seeing the impact as the years progress with the students that I'm teaching. They're learning, they're growing. People are reaching out. People are loving my story. Then I'm featured in the news. All these great things were happening on the outside, yet Ashley Marie Fox still had no money. I'm trying to pay for the materials, not sure if I'm charging enough. It was just a lot. And so I'm here to tell you this one, keep going. Because what you could not take from my heart was the fact that I was making an impact. The fact that I had something that the world needed, but they weren't fully ready for it. But the world was starting to realize, hey, we want our kids to learn about money because we didn't. And sometimes it's challenging for people to find the money to pay for what you provide, especially when you want the world to have it. So when you're building your product or you're creating your company, think about who your stakeholders are. Think about what the child may want, what the school may want, the individual who's cutting the check, what matters to them. Because Ashley and Empify wanted to financially empower the world, where the world didn't care to financially empower themselves, or Empify would have been created a long time ago. So I'm battling with I don't have a lot of money. I don't understand how to do this. I'm trying to create something the world has never seen, yet I know the world needs it. And am I good enough for it? Because how am I teaching a subject of money and I'm still struggling to make ends meet, living on my own and really trying to figure this process out? But here's what most people didn't know. I'm teaching the world. I'm on social media, but I still didn't know my worth. I remember vividly exactly where I was at in Philadelphia, and I met with a politician in Philadelphia, and they had an interest in what I was doing. And I remember I don't remember the conversation, but I remember this one line: the world is not going to want what you provide. They only want Ashley Fox. Therefore, you're not going to be able to do this. And I remember in that moment, whatever it did to me, I remember sitting in my car. I was on 40th Street in Philadelphia, cry my eyes out. I leaned my seat all the way back, and I was crying. Because when you're doubting yourself in your dreams already, and then you have someone on the outside who doesn't even know you, or even people who do know you, amplify what you're already feeling, you mix your doubt with somebody else's demons. Oh, I broke down. And it was so hard because I remember calling my mother, and she's like, well, I understand. Well, do you want to go back to Wall Street? And I said, absolutely not. So then she would say, keep going. And so when you're in that moment of just in between and it's not working and everything is just falling apart, or even and in this case, things weren't falling apart. They were actually falling into place. But because it wasn't my design of perfection, I felt like I was falling apart because I was emotionally just drained, right? And always ask yourself, especially if you're following your dreams and doing what you love, because I always tell people, please don't do this for money. Because when you go through those moments of not having money, you go through those tough times, it is so easy to resort back to going to make money if you're not doing something bigger than money. And when I left Wall Street to build Empify, it wasn't about money. If I wanted to make money, I would have stayed on Wall Street. But in reality, I wanted to give the world something they didn't even know that they needed, but it was something that they deserved. Then I remember another time when I'm still feeling this doubt. Bank account still is not flowing, and I go on TV. And at this point in life, I did not sign up to be famous. I signed up to provide financial education to the world and to pull out their inner greatness. And I went on television and I did really, really good. And you know how when you watch your interview and you're looking for, or just looking at the picture or video you made, you're looking at what's wrong with you. There was nothing wrong. My outfit was on point. My hair, my makeup, how I articulate was so good. Yet I was unhappy. And that was when something inside of me knew who I was becoming. I knew that I needed to figure out why I was unhappy in a life that was my dream. And nobody talks about what it feels like to create the abundance, and not just with money, but you actually watching your dreams manifest. The things you used to dream about are coming about, but you are unhappy in that moment. And that's when I realized I needed therapy. That's when I realized, how can I sit here and say, I don't want to go back to Wall Street, sit here and have people want what Empify has created so much. And I'm on national TV and I'm sad. And so one of the things I would tell everybody is to find that connection within you, whether it's through church, whether it's through your coach, whether it's through therapy. Me, I have a lot of coaches and a lot of therapists, a spiritual advisor, because if I'm not right within, what good am I to serve the world? And when my cup was empty, I needed to be able to learn how to fill it, because the world will drain you. Forget being a business owner. The world and people will drain you, period. And in reality, I knew I couldn't do it alone and I needed help. So now Empify, we're okay, right? We have a name. We now have a website, because I did not have a website when I started Empify. We have customers, we're making money, and we're at this point where COVID hits. So by the time COVID hit, I had schools wanting to pay Ashley Fox, the consultant, to help them figure out how to put Empify's programs in school systems. Like, I'm having conversations with 6-figure contracts, because now the world is starting to see, I want this for my students. I want this for my families. And I'm seeing this company on Empify doing it. How can I be a part of this? So boom, COVID hit. So at this point, Empify is a B2B business. We're going after schools, companies, organizations, and we're getting to a point where we're growing, but at the same time, COVID hit and I didn't know what to do. When COVID hit, school shut down. So now it's like, okay, how are we about to make money? Because I didn't know how to build a B2C business. But the beauty of COVID was the market crashed. And I remember being on Wall Street in 2010, watching our clients make a ton of money as a result of the 2008 crash. So that's when I knew I needed to get in when the prices dropped, so that my money could grow over time when the market started to bounce back. So I got on the internet. And I'm like, we're going to win during this recession. Everybody's scared. COVID's happening. And I'm trying to find the opportunity in what's going on in the world. And I'm going to make money. But now I'm bringing the world with me. And so in that moment, we had launched what is now our Wealth Builders Community Membership Platform, which today has over 5,000 people. We're over in 22 different countries. And imagine us like the Harvard of finance, the Netflix of finance, where you can learn how to build wealth, how to retire, plan for retirement, invest for your children, invest for you, understand life insurance, pass your money down. Everything Wall Street gave me, I put it in a platform that launched right during COVID. And when that happened, I'm like, okay, I'm bringing the world in this financial, I'm giving them the education. I'm helping them through this recession. I'm helping them through the market crash. I'm getting them to be excited. But at the same time, I don't know what I'm doing then either, right? I'm scared because we're not making money like we used to. But at the same time, I have to tell the world this is the opportunity for them to invest. So boom, we launched our Wealth Builders Community Platform only because I started to teach classes on the internet. And I remember I taught my first class, myself and a woman on our team. It was just her and I living at my house during COVID. And we created a class helping people invest in the stock market. And I don't even remember how many people came, but I remember I made $12,000 in literally 2 minutes. And I'm teaching the class, and I'm trying something new. And I looked at my phone. I said, oh my God, we just made $12,000. Which was the money we needed to launch the platform. It was part of the money, but I had never made $12,000 outside of getting a check from a company that would get paid 90 days later, but we had no pending contracts because we weren't partnering with any schools. And so in that moment, that same $12,000 I made back in 2017 from that one partnership, that took me 26 schools over 5 months to perform, I made $12,000 in 2 minutes. And that's when I knew the world was ready to hear Ashley speak. And that's when I knew we could launch our platform. So we went on Making More. We opened up the doors to our Wealth Builders community platform, and the game changed. And what COVID did for me was it gave me a light to shine on the world during a time where everyone was scared. And so for you to understand that you might be in that season when you're scared. You might be in that season where you feel like customers aren't listening to you. You might be in that season where people don't support you. Everything that could possibly gone wrong during COVID happened. The whole world shut down. But I found a way to shift my perspective, to find an opportunity to still fulfill my purpose on financially empowering the world, despite the environment, despite my bank account, despite being stuck in the house. You could not tell me Ashley Marie Fox, and Empify could not change the world. And let's change the world during a time when the world really needs us the most, during COVID.
Hey, it is Ashley Fox. Thank you so much for watching today. I just want to make sure that you did not miss our next Cash Flow Creation Virtual Summit. Now, this is an event where I show you exactly how to start building a passive income portfolio, even if you're just getting started. Stocks, REITs, debt paydown strategies, legacy planning, and so much more. I break it all down in a way that is actionable and easy to follow. Now, the summit is 5 days of live content, just a couple hours each day, where I give you the exact tools, the exact strategies, and resources that I learned working on Wall Street. This is where you get a chance to finally create passive income, to begin investing, and to start building financial ease together. Click the link below, see everything that is offered, and I will see you at the summit. Oh, and before you go, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with anybody who wants to take control of their financial future. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I cannot wait to see you at the summit.
So now, COVID ended, and they started to let us back outside. And I remember at that point in my life, when the shift went from B2B Empify to B2C. So now we're making passive income. We have a membership-based platform. We're still trying to figure it out, but the whole business model changed, where we then became an actual tech company. Figuring this process out every single day, still not having a ton of money, paying my day ones a little bit, but not a lot. And when outside opened, let me tell you what was happening in the midst of COVID. In the midst of COVID, my body started rejecting food, right? So I'm at a point in life where the foods I used to eat, so a cheeseburger is my favorite food. That is my favorite food in the whole wide world. I can't eat cheeseburgers. I can't eat Kix. That was my favorite cereal. I couldn't eat candy. I was getting sick from eating the foods I've been eating my whole life. So I thought something was physically wrong with me. So I went to all types of doctors, and everyone said I was fine. I took blood tests, all types of tests. And I was so confused as to how can you sit here and tell me for what, I think like 20, 30 years of my life that I can't eat this food. And so I never realized the connection that food has to your emotional stability, but I started to get depressed. I'm getting sick eating food, and I thought something was wrong with me. Not to mention I had friends, family, people that I was so close to my whole life. My energy was pulling away from them. I started to get physical headaches around people that I've been around my whole life. And I'm like, how come now my body is detaching me from the things I've been used to my whole life? So first it was food, then it was friends and family, and then I was in a relationship. So I was in a relationship, and it ended badly. It broke me. And at that point, I felt like everything that I was used to was being removed from me. Not intentionally, but energetically. And at that moment in time, I realized that the version of Ashley that I was and whoever I was becoming, I couldn't handle her. And how can I embrace someone so foreign that I didn't know in a familiar place? So I decided to leave. And I said, I'm going to go somewhere, I don't know where, but I got to get out of this environment. So much of my environment reminded me of just my past. And I didn't know what to do. So Paris had just opened up literally that day. And they started to open up flights to Paris. I got a one-way ticket to Paris for $300. One, because I've been to Europe a few times. I didn't know what country I was going to end up in. I had no idea when I was coming home. But Paris was one of the first European countries to open. So I booked a one-way ticket. Literally packed my bags, got a couple suitcases, and just went to Paris. I had no intention on what I was going to do. I was planning to stay somewhere for a week. I figured I'd figure it out after that week. And I just took off because it was so hard for me to let go of who I have been in a place that has known me all my life, which was Philadelphia. So when I was in Paris, let me tell you what I did. Absolutely nothing. I wore my favorite Golden Goose sneakers. I walked every single day. I probably took an Uber twice, and that was to and from the airport. I didn't take public transportation. I lived in a different location in Paris every 10 days, and I stayed at hotels. I had no desire to make money. I did not want to be the finance girl. I did not know who Empify was. I didn't know who I was or who I was becoming, and I was just honestly scared. And that was the first time in my life that I just let go. I let go of who I had been. I let go of who I thought I was. I let go of everything. And when I say I cry every single day, I journal every single day. And I just was just there. And to this day, Paris is the best place in the world because in the moment when I needed an environment to love me and be there for me, Paris was the country that showed up for me. So I'm in Paris and I'm just letting everything go. I'm not making any money. I don't know how to make money. I had no desire to make money, yet I had a whole platform of people. And I remember having this letting go sale where I made this headline, I'm letting go of everything. I'm letting go of the Empify. I'm letting go of Ashley. I'm letting go of the version of Empify, who I was before, to recreate this new version of me. Now, the woman in Paris dreamt of living in a floor-to-ceiling bedroom, floor-to-ceiling apartment. That woman in Paris dreamt of being a CEO. That woman in Paris realized she was afraid to be a CEO because she didn't think she was good enough to be a CEO. So much I had to depend on other people to build my confidence to be able to be a CEO because I didn't think I could do it. And so understanding that every phase you're going to go through in business, you're not going to feel enough. You're not going to feel complete because you are always evolving. So just as much as I became the Ashley who made 6 figures in the business, I'm not the Ashley who made $1 million in business. Therefore, I'm not enough for the $1 million, but I'm enough for the couple 100,000. And because there's always a moving target, you're never going to feel like you're enough, which is why I don't even use the word enough. Because in reality, when will you ever be enough if you're constantly evolving, you're constantly wanting more, and every day you're becoming more? So I had this big old sale because I needed to pay my Amex bill because I was living off my Amex card to pay for my hotels in Paris. And I kind of let go of everything on the website. I put everything on sale and kind of just turned everything off. And I deleted everything because I wanted to become someone new. And so I was in Paris for about 4 months until one day I woke up I think I'm okay. I think I'm ready. At that time, I felt empty inside when it came to friends. I just left the relationship. Food was so foreign to me. Also, my body started rejecting alcohol. So we talking about 4 things in my life that I was used to that were no more. Who was I without those things? So after 4 months, boom, came back. And before I left, I did not sign my lease in Philly because I wanted to leave Philly. I didn't know where to go though. So I went back to the one place that was not foreign, that filled my cup, which was New York City. Here's the thing though. I had no money again. So I got to a point in life where I packed up my apartment. I moved to New York and I booked an Airbnb the day I was driving to New York. I stayed in this horrible Airbnb in Harlem and I was like, this can't be life. And so I tell you this because while you might have saw me in Paris, I was broken on the inside. While you might have saw us teaching in schools and me on the internet teaching creating videos, I didn't know who I was on the inside. But I knew who I was always becoming. And I knew who I wanted to be, which goes back to the reason Empify was created. It wasn't about money. It wasn't about being my own boss. It was about giving something inside of me to the world that I knew they deserved. And I knew I was the only person in this world to give it to them. And when you hold on to that light, that's what makes this journey worth living. When you hold on to that purpose, the not having the money, the losing the friends, the going through the breakups, the struggle, the frustration, you keep going. And at that point in my life, I ended up in New York. no money still, but I had started from scratch. This was the Ashley 2.0. We launched our platform called the Wealth Builders Community 2.0. Everything was brand new because I felt like I was leaning in a direction of who I no longer was, but I was becoming the woman that I dreamt of becoming. And I was leaning towards that light. So now we are in the 2.0 Wealth Builders Community, the 2.0 Ashley 2.0 Empify. And I'm still confused. But if I look back on that point of my life from the day I left Wall Street, it's like I lived 3 different lives within that time span. I was 3 different versions of Ashley. And that year of 2021, that was the first year that Inc. documented our revenue for the first time we made the list when we were 652. We had grown 712%. And the reason that 652 was so important is because that was the Paris year, the year of just confusion, the year of loss, the year of disconnect, I call it my year of letting go. I didn't know what I was letting go, but I was being called to become something more. So came back to New York, and New York wasn't it for me. It didn't fill my cup like it did my Wall Street days. I don't know if New York was different or if Ashley was different, but I learned that the feeling that I was chasing was a feeling, not a location. And sometimes you might feel empty inside. Sometimes you might feel like something is missing, or you might feel stuck. And I realized that what that hole you're feeling can never be fulfilled externally, only internally. So while I thought New York would make me feel good, New York, I still felt empty. I wasn't making money like I felt like I could have been making money. And I just needed to continue to grow. And so one of the biggest things when I think about just what allowed us to get on the Inc. 5000 list, I can't sit here and say there were core tactics that I took to make sure we grew fast. I think there were more moments that I remained still in that I allowed to pass. There were moments in life that were hard where I didn't rush the process. I just sat in the process and I felt the feeling. I cried the tears. I got angry when it was necessary, and I continued to push through. And next thing you know, you look up 3 years later, we're one of the fastest growing companies in the nation. And I can't say that it was Paris, but I can tell you it started from there. But right after that, I moved to Atlanta, right? I moved one of our most important people on the Empify team from Philly to Atlanta. I opened our office in Atlanta. We started to hire in Atlanta. But even in that moment, I still didn't feel like I had a lot of money. Because in a business, what I've learned about me as a business owner, I'm not making money to go spend it and live a life, right? Everything that I do, everything that I buy, every place that I go is an investment in me. And it's an investment in my energy, in my time, in my heart that gives me the strength to be who I am to the world. So I have to go back to Paris and I have to live a life because it reminds me of who I am. It reminds me who I'm becoming, and it reminds me who I deserve to be, especially in those moments when I don't think I'm good enough. So I'm consciously making those investments in me, and it's not an expense, it's an investment. It's not a cost, it's an investment in me that gives me a return to be a better CEO, to show up for you better, for the world that I'm serving. And so we have an office in Atlanta, we're growing. I think at this point, we probably had crossed our first million, and even when we did that, I still didn't feel like I had money. Even when we did that, I still felt like I wasn't good enough. And so understanding that at every level you go in life, there's always going to be an area of your life you have to work on. You're never going to have it all together. You're never going to be perfect. You're never going to be the richest of all. Like there's always going to be something that may feel incomplete that you have to work on. I think that's what the beauty of life is. So we're making money, even though now we have more employees. Now we have higher rent. Now we have more overhead. We have things that require more money, which is why I also tell people you don't attract what you want, you attract who you are. I didn't become a millionaire until I knew what to do with $1 million. I just had a conversation with somebody and they said, yeah, if I had $1 million, I'm not even quite sure what I would do with it. And I said, that's exactly why you don't have it, because you have the money when it's normalized. When we made $1 million, it felt like nothing. What made the most difference is the fact that we made $1 million. Like, oh my God, we made $1 million. We didn't have $1 million in our bank account. It took us 365 days to get to $1 million. And even that last December at the end of that year was a big chunk of getting us to $1 million. But we didn't have $1 million in cash. And even in that moment, how about I still felt unworthy? I still felt uncomfortable. What if my friends didn't like me? What if I was different from people? What if I operated different now that I have this identifier attached to me because I let something identify who Ashley Fox was, when in reality, I'm going to sit here and say I'm going to be a billionaire. And girl, you scared with a small million, yet you want to be a billionaire. You see how that's conflicting. Who do you want to be, the billionaire, or you want to go back to the Ashley who just left Wall Street, who got kicked out her apartment? So sometimes you have to think how conflicting your thoughts are when it comes to really building your business. And so we're building Empify, we're growing, and we hit the Inc. 5000 list. And when we hit the list, it was like, whoa, I didn't know we were growing that fast. I didn't know that we could do this. But it's those moments where that customer is excited about your product. It's those moments when you get featured in the news. It's that moment where somebody gives you that beautiful text that warms your heart. It's the moment when you're featured in a magazine that lets you know that the crazy person who started a business is on to something. It's like the moments of doubt. Here's what's even crazier. When we got on the Inc. 5000 list the first time, I had a whole anxiety attack. How is it that you are one of the fastest growing companies in the world? You created a multi-million-dollar business. You literally have helped people invest millions of dollars. You've got thousands of people in your app. You are the Ashley that I dreamt of becoming in Paris. You have the floor to ceiling window apartment. You have the money. I'm in a relationship. I'm in love. I have everything. Yet you have an anxiety attack. What's wrong? Why don't you feel like you deserve this? So I have to spend more time focusing on my belief in my deserving. Why? Because I'm so used to not having. I'm so stuck in evicted Ashley. I'm so stuck in I don't know who I am going to Paris Ashley versus the abundant Ashley. And nobody talks about how your nervous system can't keep up with the abundance you create because it's not used to having that type of abundance. Now, it'd have been different if I grew up with money, because seeing money and having money would feel normal. But not having is what's normal typically in our community. And now I spend more time reprogramming my mind to normalize billions of dollars. I walk around every day calling myself a $1 billion CEO, not because it looks good, but because I know if I had $1 billion, I would freak out just like I did when we got the first Inc. 5000 recognition. So I have to train my mind like I'm listening to a song over and over and over so much that I can fluently be a $1 billion woman. The same way I had to retrain my mind and allow myself to become a new version of Ashley that I am today. So now, made the list the first time. So now we're like, oh, we get on the list every year. We're going to do this. And now we know how to get on the list and what you got to do. So it's not hard for us to stay on the list. But everyone's like, you're going to get a higher ranking. And Ashley's like, no, I'm just happy to be here. So then the second time it came out. So at this point, I'm telling my team, guys, if we are number 500, 700, I want you to be grateful. One, because I didn't want disappointment. I didn't want my team to set an expectation that we could be higher when in reality we aren't. Now, when you're building the business, when you put your head down, you're not looking at the scoreboard. Inc. has been my scoreboard, but that was over the course of the prior 3 years. I know how much we made, but I don't sit and track how much we've grown. But in reality, that's what the Inc. 5000 list is. You have to at least make 100,000 your first year, and you have to make at least 2 million the third year in business in order for them to track the growth for you to be able to be eligible to make the list. And what happens is based off of your growth, you're ranked amongst all the companies that they're ranking. And so when we had when I told the team we were going to make the list again, they sent us an email. And they reached out to me to be featured in the magazine. So I said, okay, if I'm being featured in a magazine, this might be something. I don't know how big it's going to be. I'm kind of scared. But here I am again, afraid of my bigness, right? I said I wanted to go big. I said I wanted to impact billions of people. But when the bigness comes, I have to be ready to receive it. So we're sitting in there. We see our ranking is 145. Now that I don't think anybody at Empify knew we would have. I'm sitting here telling you, I knew we grew. But 2,600%, that's like if you bought Empify stock, of which you can't right now, 3 years ago, it would have grown 2,600%. That's insane. But here's when people ask me, okay, how did we get there? It's because I never stopped. It's because, and I'm going to be honest, you've got to be a crazy person to run a business. You've got to be a crazy person to keep going through. Because what I did not tell you, in the midst of those past 3 years, I lost my father. And I was out my business for 6 months with the thought of I might not ever come back to this business. So we're talking about going to Paris, losing everything and starting from scratch, moving to New York, having nothing, living in Airbnbs for 8 months until you finally move to Atlanta to get an apartment. You find love, you build a business, you cross your million, you're doing all right. You lose your father. 6 months later, I come back into the business and figure out what I needed to do to create a business that could thrive without me. And then the following year, at a point where we had more money we had ever made, but nobody talks about what you do when you make the money and how you manage it. It's one thing to manage money personally. And it's another thing when you got hundreds of transactions coming out of your bank account every single month and you have people to pay, you have rent to pay, you have so many expenses that you can't even keep up. Yet I think I'm the finance girl that I'm gonna have it all figured out, right? But in reality, nobody taught me corporate finance. I learned personal finance. And it was in that moment where I'm like, okay, we're making tons of money. Yet, where's the money coming from? Where is it going? It's coming from, they talk about having multiple streams of income, but nobody talks about how you manage multiple streams of income, how you sustain multiple streams of income, how at the same time you're paying the bills you have, yet trying to make investments so that you can build a bigger business. So it's a balance of taking care of your bills, making investments. All the investments you make don't garner the return you're going to make. Some investments I made over the past 3 years didn't work. I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on employees that didn't work. I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on ideas that didn't work, that didn't garner the return. You got to write that off, yet still make sure you're providing and taking care of your team. And so in that moment, there were times in this business where my stocks had to fund Empify's dream. The same way my stocks were the reason I was able to create Empify, my stocks have also been the reason my employees have been paid, because Empify didn't have a CFO. Because Ashley Fox thought she could be CFO, CMO, CEO, she could be everything. Now understanding this is why you put people in place. But in order for me to put someone in position to handle the one thing that is precious to me, money, you have to trust people. So instead of trusting, I will be the CFO. But in reality, that is not my skill set. But in reality, thank God for my investments, because they carried me to create Empify, and they've put me in the positions to sustain Empify, to make sure payroll was made by Empify. So as a result of that, yes, we got on the Inc. 5000 list, but we also made a 6-figure investment in having a CFO team. An investment that I need so I can have clarity so that Ashley doesn't have to bail out Empify. Empify is the one making Ashley Fox rich. And so when I sit and think about, okay, how did we become 145? It's because I've had a lot of employees that didn't work out. It's because I lost my father and became one of the most purpose-driven women as a result of my father's passing. It's because I had to go to Paris, let go of who I used to be, because the woman, the friends, the relationship, the food I used to eat back then did not support the version of Ashley that made that 145 having a company called Empify. If I think about who I was back then, eating the food that I ate there, I wouldn't be able to survive with the life that I have now. Having the partner that I had then, that would have never worked out being this version of Ashley, right? So I'm grateful for the pain, but when you ask and think, how did we get here? It's because I sustained it. I didn't try to bypass it. I allowed it to happen. And I found the lesson in every place that I was confused, every mistake that I had made, every employee that I had hired, that I had fired. And I kept going. And next thing you know, you look up, you grew 2,600%. Not because I had a methodological, if that's the word, game plan or a business plan. It's because I knew that you couldn't tell Ashley Marie Fox that Empify wasn't going to change the world. And I'm going to go as big as possible. I'm going to change as many lives as possible. And I'm going to go through hell and back because I know that it's possible. So as I sit here and catch my breath, as I reminisce over the past 10 plus years of this journey as an entrepreneur, I wouldn't change anything. But if there's anything you took away from just understanding how we got to this point, is that wealth runs deep. It's not about money, because even when the money came, there was still a deeper meaning and healing that I had to go through to sustain the money, to create more. But in reality, when I think about the wealth creation version of Ashley, or just what Empify has become, it's so much bigger than who we are at this point. I think it's about striving to become more, to shed more, to mourn who you used to be, and to love who you are becoming but may not have yet become. And understand that it's a process and it's a journey. It's your mindset. It's about shifting from within so that the outside of you can show a different life. And if you are in this season of confusion, I want you to know, so am I. Even at 145, 95% of my life every day is unfamiliar. There is no rule book to entrepreneurship. There is no game plan. It is a way of life that you learn to adapt to. It is a mental fortitude that grows every single day. But one thing that I think is the biggest part of my story is I never stopped. Even when I was down, I took a break. Even when my dad passed away, I took a break. But something so much bigger than me got me back up. And I decided to keep going. Not out of anger, not out of proving anybody wrong, but because that's what felt right from within. But in order to get what is on the inside, you got to dig deep on the inside. And the deeper you dig, the freer you become. The more your heart opens, the more you're ready to receive, the more you're ready to give. And the more you're ready to give, the more it'll come back. And the more you allow yourself to receive and accept, the happier you'll be. But one can't happen without the other. So when I say wealth runs deep, it is deep. We could be here all day talking about everything that I've gone through. But I think what you're going through is what makes your story worth telling. It's what makes the byproduct of what you're creating and what you're doing and what you stand for when it comes to building your business or just even growing your career, understanding that the whole journey is deep. But when it comes to creating the wealth, sustaining the wealth, it has nothing to do with money. It has to do with everything on the inside that impacts your life on the outside. Empify didn't become real because we were making millions. It became real because I didn't quit when it looked like nothing was working. Paris reminded me I wasn't broken. I was being rebuilt. And if you're in that space right now, I want you to know the part of your story that no one claps for still counts. In the next episode, you'll hear how I scaled what started in silence into a national platform and what happened when we finally got our first real yes. So if today's story spoke to you, subscribe, share this episode with someone who's building from scratch, and tag me so I can see your journey too. Because wealth doesn't just live in the numbers or the headlines. Wealth runs deep. But first, you have to believe you're worthy of it before it ever shows up.